Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating. It's Saturday, August 21st, 2021, which is a cool date. In both the Lynn Life and the Jamie Body Mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions who can pass through here without harassment. And all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls, well, somebody's correcting that, and they're saying without harassment by us. Other presences might be harassing them, and there isn't much we can do to stop that, apparently. Right. But in addition to the child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, the other authorized souls are all souls from all other dimensions, as long as they're already living by the many Search for Truth rules, already given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us. And those rules include being helpful, working to make the situation better, in accordance with our soul plan commitments, which occurred before birth, and we're part of precisely 1 million souls, and therefore 1 million lives at least have been tagged with the soul plan to basically reopen the portals to higher vibrations above all of us, to consistent sources of significantly higher vibration, in other words, to actual divinity. Because in these dimensions around where we find ourselves, around Earth, there's a lot of fakery and pretense, presences calling themselves gods.
That's right.
That they don't act like divinity, that greedy and selfish like humanity and chickens.
That's right.
So that's not divinity, that's something else. And it's been going on for a really long time, somebody's saying, because if you follow back to the roots of Hinduism and also Greek and Roman pantheons and Celtic pantheons, Viking pantheons, Native American pantheons, it's all the same. They're higher powers that are not acting divine. They're acting every bit as selfish as humans and chickens.
That's right.
And so that's not divinity. And so we've somehow fallen into a black hole where actual divinity is scarce. And we have, through our work, had the opportunity and the great joy to sit in the presence of divinity, and we know what it feels like. So we think it's a worthy goal to have that be the life's work, to be attempting to reopen portals to true divinity, to higher vibrations, consistent sources of significantly higher vibration. And if the vibrations aren't significantly higher, it isn't divinity. Divinity is comparative. There has to be a gap between the vibrations of the ambiance and the vibrations of the presence in question, or the presence in question is not divine with regard to the dimension in question.
That's right.
So consistent sources of significantly higher vibration, that's what we're supposed to be opening portals to. And we know that interdimensional questions can be effective in opening portals. And so we have this question about the earthquake in Haiti, which was a week ago today, 7.2 on the Richter scale.
That's right.
And Haiti is a very suffering country.
That's right.
And it has a lot of issues with overpopulation, and there are still very large families there, and possibly it's because there's no access to birth control.
That's right.
And it's really the wealthy countries, it's on us, the countries with the resources, to provide contraception to the entire planet, humanity, all over the planet. The countries with the resources have got to do it. We can't say, Haiti, you take care of your problems.
That's right.
Haiti's government is in collapse. They had an earthquake, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. They had another earthquake now. They're hit by hurricanes almost every year. the UN rescue efforts introduced cholera
That's right.
into Haiti. It wasn't there.
No.
So they've got big problems. We can't expect for them to handle everything. It isn't going to work.
No.
So then the question, what was going on? Why the earthquake? Because surely we can agree that earthquakes are acts of God.
Yeah, that's right.
Lloyds of London would say earthquakes are the acts of God.
That's right.
Insurance companies would say earthquakes are acts of God. Any contract that provides an out for an act of God would say earthquake.
That's right.
Act number 1.
Someone in that much higher dimension room is talking about fault lines and showing a map of planet Earth where it looks as though the fault lines are illuminated.
Like light is shining through them.
That's what it looks like.
And they need places to practice.
Yep.
And they picked Haiti as a place to practice.
The higher powers.
The higher powers are practicing with earthquake techniques or outcomes or something.
Someone just said earthquake intervention.
What do they mean by that?
Like using earthquakes as
an intervention.
Tools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Earthquakes as tools, not intervening with an earthquake, but causing an earthquake as a way of intervening with something else.
Yes.
And they're talking about California, and that what was accomplished, that's what they're saying, what was accomplished in Haiti is inadequate. There's the no-no finger. That's inadequate for the job required in California. Like that little earthquake won't do it.
That's right.
And they're talking about Steely Dan, and when California tumbles into the sea, that'll be the day I go back to Allendale.
That's right.
And they apparently would like to get their act together so that they can get California to tumble into the sea at the right time.
And what someone in that much higher dimension room is talking about is how timing is the trickiest part, and geologic time is so big in comparison to the time that the human species has on Earth. And so it's really tricky business.
Very tricky.
Yeah.
It's like that very wicked cadence. What now to reopen the portals to higher vibrations above all of us? What now to reopen the portals to consistent sources of significantly higher vibrations? Because that's our job, and it's the job also of 999,998 others. So we're not alone in this, but we don't really see people trying. We see a lot of people saying, that is divine, and they're saying that about presences who are being greedy and ridiculous, and not to single them out, because humanity and chickens are also greedy and ridiculous.
That's true.
For him is the message. Why do you ask? It's so messed up down here.
Yeah, that's
It's
really
just
the feeling.
a nest of everybody making bad choices and asking the wrong questions, and then making more bad choices, and then asking more incorrect questions. And if we ask the wrong questions, we're going to get the wrong answers. And they're talking about the dreamer who was pulling up little
That's
plants.
right. There was a dream that came through this host life last night, where there was a dreamer in an area that kind of
looks like this
actually.
Yeah,
this
right
area.
there, right here where we are. Maybe literally where we are is where that tree was.
Here, right? And in the dream dimension, the dreamer was pulling up small invasive plants and was thinking, gosh, this area is really heavily seeded with these invasives. How is that possible? And then looks up.
I think it was right here.
Right here.
That's maybe why we were supposed to set up
right
here.
In a spot where we don't often film. And the dreamer looks up and sees an enormous tree, thank you, of that variety, and realizes that enormous tree is probably seeding the whole area with those trouble plants, dangerous trees.
And it looked like a kapok tree.
Yeah, it did.
And the kapok tree, isn't that the Mayan tree of life?
Something like that. It's the tree of life of somebody.
For him is the message, and why do you ask? What now to reopen the portals to higher vibrations above all of us? They're talking about our neighbor's chicken who went broody.
They are.
This is a thing that chickens will do. The hens will decide that it's time to hatch out a clutch of eggs, and they'll decide this whether or not there's a rooster in the flock. So in our neighbor's case, she doesn't have a rooster.
No,
there is no rooster. So none of the eggs are fertilized, so they will never hatch out. No matter how long they're incubated, they will never hatch.
No.
So one of our neighbor's hens, decided that it was time to go broody, which means time to sit on a clutch of eggs and hatch them, which will never happen because they're not fertilized eggs. And she was sitting on 20 eggs, none of which will ever hatch because they're not fertilized. Which is a good example of asking the wrong questions, getting the wrong answers, and making bad choices. And she's growling at our neighbor's son, who was trying to get the eggs out from under her. And chickens will growl when they're broody.
Yeah, that's absolutely
We've had broody hens, and they growl. So this crazy chicken, she's deluded. And we can see it in her. And then this IPCC report was issued. Meanwhile, Siberia is on fire and emitting in 2.5 months more carbon into the atmosphere than Germany, which is the 6th largest economy in the world.
That's right.
And Germany emits in an entire year. So this is one of the examples of the self-reinforcing feedback loops that Guy McPherson had counted 65 in peer-reviewed literature, self-reinforcing feedback loops, and then he stopped counting 5 years ago, saying basically internally, all right, well, that's it, it's done. There's no recovering from this. And these Siberian fires and the Oregon fires, this is an example. We're into the era of self-reinforcing feedback loops. And that IPCC report was issued a week ago or so. And it's fallen off the news. And we shouldn't be talking about anything else. We need to be talking about this. And instead, new pipelines are still being constructed. Permits should be revoked. Instead, we're now allowing drilling in the Arctic that should be revoked. It's been banned for 50 years, and the last administration unbanned it, and the current administration has not reinstated the ban.
That's right.
So we're not acting as if reality matters. And we think that's problematic.
Yeah.
What now? And then this dreaming, it's all these little bad choices that are being made in this dimension. Maybe we can look up and find a large presence who's making bad choices and seeding the area with bad choices. And knowing that dimensions are stacked eternally inside each other, like Russian babushka dolls.
That's what it looks like.
The nesting dolls. That to somebody, that big presence that's spitting out bad choices is a small presence and could be pulled up like a weed. Divinity has to want to do that. For him is the message. Why do you ask? How is it possible that the sun is here?
It feels impossible.
It must be moving in a direction we didn't
anticipate.
It's that it's rotating this way instead of moving that way. So again, upstairs in that room of higher powers, they're talking about the Haitian earthquake.
Yeah, they are.
And how the filming today, the shade is not moving in the direction that it was predicted to move. It seems to be rotating rather than just moving. And that's unexpected.
Yeah.
And this fits with the full moon. The moon is coming up on full.
That's right.
And it's in a very oddly southern location.
That's right.
From our perspective. And that it's just odd, and we noticed it because we've been wondering where's the moon, and then we saw it in just a very strange place. But that's where it is.
That's right.
And this somehow ties into the earthquake.
That's right.
Unexpected things that maybe could be reasonably well predicted if one had been observing carefully for long enough.
That's right.
And if you just came in and took a look one time, you would say, all right, well, the sun goes this, the sun is stationary.
Yeah.
If anything is stationary, it's the sun.
The sun, the earth.
But the shadows are shifting as the earth turns on its axis.
Yeah.
And so the earth's tilt on its axis changes over the seasons, as we all know. But if somebody came in from above in higher dimensions, came in to do an observation, and the earth was rotating this way, they might assume that that was going to continue.
That's right.
And then they say to set up here, and we're setting up right where they want us to, but now we're breaking another filming rule, which is don't sit in the sun because the heat index gets to 105 here.
That's right.
And it's unhealthy, and it cooks your brain. It's really bad for you.
That's right.
So don't do that. For him is a message. Why do you ask?
They're talking about frame of reference, and they're talking about scale, and they're talking about frame of reference from multiple angles, like what they just said of if you come in and you see one slice of the way the earth moves, or you come in and you see one slice of the way the moon responds. And they're talking about something that happened a long, long time ago with another spiritual teacher who was trying for a variety of reasons to capture images of presences in other dimensions, not of this density.
Capture it on film.
Captured on film. Which
the orbs.
The orbs.
He was into chasing the orbs.
That was his big thing.
Which is fun.
He came to that collective, brought an image that had captured orbs, and he said, they're enormous orbs, they are so big. And the channeling that came through was, no, they're close to the camera.
They're right up in front of the camera. And this was a very well-educated person we were interacting with.
Not a crackpot.
Not a crackpot. And it was so bizarre to us. And we both had scientific educations. We had a scientific education. He had a scientific education. It's like, my friend, how can you be forgetting about perspective?
That's right.
It was so odd. It was jarring.
And in that room upstairs, they're holding the Haiti earthquake and the map of the fault lines, and they're holding this thing of the Earth rotation being different than expected, and they're holding the thing of size being different than expected.
And they're concluding they are not ready to get California to tumble into the sea.
That's
that their setup is incorrect. They've got flaws in their calculations. Maybe Haiti was their test it there, and then we'll take it to California, which doesn't bring us joy because we think California is pretty.
Yeah.
But it's not our assignment. Our assignment is to reopen portals to higher vibrations above all of us, to consistent sources of significantly higher vibration, and then to ask what now to stop this destruction in a fair and just way, because our assignment is to inspire a divine miracle, to stop the destruction and to stop it in a fair and just way. You guys want to ask divinity, however you are able to, is to ask, what do we do now to inspire a divine miracle to stop the destruction in a fair and just way? We would like to know. Whoosh, that goes up.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.